Gary, and we didn't have the Bloods for Crips. We had something called the Blackstone Rangers, and they were equally as dangerous. So the thing that saved me that I wanted to share with you is that I got a paper route. And for some reason, I was able to go from 0 to selling a lot of them. And it changed the way I looked at how I was going to spend my life. So here's what I'd like to start with. I don't want you to look at the products you're selling this week as products that you're selling because of Miss Mitchell. I want you to think for a second. If everything worked out the way you wanted it to, what would your life look like? What would you have? What would you be able to share with your family? And where would you go? So I just want you to think for a second. Can someone give me a goal that they have if everything worked out? What would you do?
If everything worked out for me, my main goal would be to play sports.
To play sports?
Yes.
Okay, how about you?
If everything worked out for me, I'll be my family in a big mansion.
Okay, all right, right here.
How about business with a consistent cash flow and so I can employ other people I know?
Okay, all right. And you, sir?
Is to be very, very wealthy and help out my family.
That's a good one. How about over in these expensive seats? Nobody's talking on this side. I mean, there's really reserved seats. What would you do? What would you, just think for a second. You could do anything. You could have whatever you wanted. You could go wherever you wanted. What would you do? What would you do?
Be able to help my family like they helped me.
Yeah. Okay. Back then, what would you do?
Probably give back to my community that didn't get to go like on the level that I am, or like to travel different places that I do that I probably wouldn't be able to travel to.
Okay. Yeah.
I would like to travel the world, like everywhere.
Okay. Well, so where would be the first place you go?
Italy.
Italy. Yeah, I've been to Italy. I like it. I eat too much when I'm there, but yeah. How about in the back there? You who's looking kind of thoughty. You thinking about what you got?
I would provide for my mom because she's the reason why I'm here today.
Yeah.
And I
Hey guys, let's have one meeting, okay? Let's show respect to everyone here. Is that fair? Okay. All right. Go ahead. You're talking about your mom.
I would provide for my mom and my family because, like, part of my family is wealthy and part of my family doesn't have a lot of money. So,
Yeah.
like, I want to provide for them, and I also want to travel places. And yeah.
Okay, that's good. I want to tell you that my family was equally divided. I had people in Gary who had lots of cars, fine homes. And then on my side of the family, we didn't have those cars, and we lived in the project. It was an interesting dichotomy because I could see what I wanted to have, but I lived what I didn't want to have. Everybody understand that?
Yes.
That you grow up and you, I used to have this thing I would say to myself all the time, I wish we were rich. I used to say it all the time, as if I lived in Europe and had to be born into money. Well, in America, you can design your own future. And the reason I'm asking you about dreams right now is because when you put a dream in your head, it opens up your vision. And you'll see things and you'll hear things that will help you get to your vision. I know it's going to sound crazy when I say it to you, but if you write a dream down, if you focus on that dream, you're going to start to see things that will help you get to the dream. I want to start this conversation off today that Crystal said I'm sorry, Miss Mitchell, I call her Crystal.
No, Miss Crystal to them.
I want you to understand something really well before we go too far. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be in a position where I can help someone because I had help when I was a kid. I shudder to think what would happen to me if no one helped me. And it only takes one person. So I want you to listen today selfishly. I can't tell you when you'll hear it. I can't tell you what you'll hear. But if you pay attention today, you're going to hear something that will help you get to your dream. So we're prepared to listen for a few minutes?
Yes,
Just
Greg, hold on
minutes.
1 second. Can everybody just close down their laptops so that you can pay attention to him and take out some notepads so you can take notes because it may be beneficial to you. Okay? Mr. Winston speaks before very wealthy people, so he's going to be sharing some very valuable information, how he helps big companies become successful and more successful. So this is a great opportunity for you, all right? Okay. So take out some paper. Thank you. All right, chop chop. It shouldn't be this difficult. Thank you. All righty. Quiet down. Shh.
All right. So
all right.
I wanna get right into sales. So let me start there. Has anyone ever wanted to buy something before they were in front of what they wanted to buy? Did you ever dream about buying something before you got there? Right. You have, right? That made it easier for you to buy it because you already came with that idea that you wanted to buy it. Is that right? Okay. So in your products, as you talk about your clothing line or whatever venue you have, your goal should be to get somebody to want to buy it before you're in front of them. So as I understand it, you've been working on slogans, and what else have you been working on to help you sell? What else?
Benefits and features.
Okay, good. How about you?
The demographics.
Okay.
Proper branding.
Okay. And what were you going to say?
Marketing.
Marketing. All right, so let me break it down to a gut level, a one-on-one level, because most of what you're going to have will be one-on-one. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's what I want to get to. There's a statement that you can make that causes a person to come closer to your product. And the thing that I want to tell you, that I want to describe to you, is that statement. And it's sort of a three-pronged thing. The first thing you want to understand is what you're promising people. The gentleman who spoke a few minutes ago, what's your name? Demetrius. Demetrius was talking about clothing. And he mentioned something in that presentation. One of the things he said is that he wanted to get quality clothing at a lower price. Anybody hear that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now think for a second. When you look at products online, all of them make a promise. Every product you buy makes a promise to you. Apple says it's going to be easier, it's going to be contemporary, it's going to look better than other things. Tesla says we're going to give you a car that operates off a battery that's faster than a car that operates on gas. Every single person that has a product makes a promise. I want you to think, what are you promising people? The first thing I want to ask you is, what is your promise? Before anybody buys your product, they want to know that you're giving them something. And you have to promise to give it to them. Go all the way back to Tide, washing your clothes. Tide says they're going to be whiter. I got to tell you, some of you aren't old enough to know this, but Tide has been promising people stuff for years. Every year, Tide promises something new. I can remember when Tide was just in a box. Now they're in these little plastic things. Now they've included fragrance. Then they include bleach. Every year, Tide makes a promise so people will come buying. When I said promise, who came up with something that you're promising people? What did you promise?
That I would collect debt from the bank for the banks.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? You know what you're promising? What are you promising?
To make each person financially literate.
Okay. All right. Yes.
A safe and secure environment.
A safe and secure environment. Okay. What were you going to say right next to it?
I've been promising that the disabled kids would be able to get away from, that they would be safer and also have experiences today.
Okay. Yeah.
My promise is to keep kids happy onto the gaming industry.
Okay. So I want you to get this part. When I first started my company, I would train salespeople. Now, here's what I would promise people. When they say, well, Greg, what do you do? I said, I create intelligent salespeople. In many cases, those salespeople can double what they sell. You hear that promise? So people would say to me, well, how do you do that? And that's when I start to talk about my product. Now keep in mind, if I just walked up to you and I said, hey, I'm a salesperson. I train salespeople. That's not going to work. What's going to work is for me to engage you. So if I'm not making a promise that allows you to think, well, how'd you do that? I'm not going to sell you. So today, I'm asking you to write down that statement I just gave you and label it a promise. Then underneath that, I want you to spend your time when I'm gone to figure out what your promise is. That's step number 1. Step number 2, I want you to fulfill that promise in a different way than everyone else out there. Demetrius, when you go back and look at clothing, and you look at FUBU, do you remember FUBU? Have you ever heard that name?
No.
Okay. FUBU was a line that was created by Damon, who's on Shark Tank. And his idea was, I'm going to make clothes for you. FUBU was fashion for you, by you. FUBU, you see what I'm saying? So he attacked a certain market. He was saying, hey, you don't have your own clothes. So I'm going to help you design your clothes for you, and it's going to look like you. So it competed with Giorgio Armani. It competed with Calvin Klein, because those markets weren't for us. So unless you fulfill it in a different way, you won't be able to sell people. Many of you are going to be in situations where someone's going to talk to you about your product. And without being different, then you're just asking them for a favor. You're just asking them to buy your stuff. You ever see the kids in front of the store selling candy? Yeah. Okay. Maybe some of you have done that. You walk up to someone and you start talking. You're trying to get them to, but the large percentage of people don't buy from you. Did you notice that? It's rare. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to limit the number of people you have to talk to get a sale. And they're the 2 steps that I'm talking about. First, the promise. And then you have to fulfill it in a different way. Demetrius, what are you going to say?
The reason I think that is, like, that most people just don't buy is because everyone all has the same reason to sell candy.
Okay.
Like, everyone is either for Girl Scouts or for like,
I know.
Yeah, just come
So
on.
here's my thing. What do you think would make it different then? What would make it different if everybody's selling candy and they're trying to say, this is for the Girl Scouts, or this is for the Boy Scouts, or this is for our trip? What would make it different?
To me, what would make it different, I would just sell different candy and create a different pitch. Don't just say, oh, it's for Girl Scouts. Try to, like, reel them in, and then say it's for Girl Scouts.
Okay, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, like, you should find a way of portraying it that's more emotionally appealing. So you could say something like, oh, well, we're going to such and such place to, like, learn a new skill, and you, like, if by doing this you'll be allowing us to learn something new.
Okay, over here.
Well, at school, I used to like sell like candy and like all that stuff, and then other people like got the idea to do it too. So then I had to like make something that was like better. So I like mixed like the brownies and like the cookies together, and people bought it from me because it was different and like. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're stacking up some good reasons, but let me give you the foolproof answer. This is the #1 answer that causes people to buy. I want you to remember this if you don't remember anything else. You have to make the product for them. You have to tell them something that brings them into focus on why they should buy it for themselves. If it's cookies, I have a delicious cookie that's different from any cookie you'll ever find, and it's going to go great with your morning coffee. So here's what I'd like you to think about. What is your client's #1 desire? If it's financial literacy, then what are they trying to do? They're trying to understand money. They're trying to save money. They're trying to go somewhere and do something. What is it that your market is trying to do? The homework I'm asking you to do now is to come up with 3 things that are going to separate you from everyone else. 1, you've got to make a promise. 2, you've got to fulfill it differently than anyone else. And 3, you've got to know what your client's desire is. So let me just explain that a little deeper. Right now, I consult companies. Those companies may go from 5 million to 100 million in annual revenue. You know what I found out? That every person who runs a company has a goal for that company. So I don't spend my time talking about what I'm able to do first. The first thing I do is find out what they're trying to do. If they're trying to grow the company to 200 million, if they're trying to get enough reserve to buy another company, whatever it is they're trying to do, my job is to help them to do that. Does everybody get those 3 steps? Because that's going to be your homework.
You said have a promise, fulfill the promise differently, and what else?
Understand their desire. So Demetrius is getting that. Did everybody hear what he said?
Yes.
He's going to make a promise. Then I'm going to fulfill that promise differently than anyone else. And the reason I'm going to be successful is because I'm going to know your desire before I even start talking to you. If I don't know it, I'm going to spend all my time asking questions to get to that. Now I'm going to give you a concept. And I want you to remember what this concept is. Most people live in an area called comfort zone. And you may be living in comfort zone right now. That means that you're going to do the things you've always done because they're comfortable. You don't want to go outside of that because that's too risky. What I'm going to ask you to do today, starting today, is go outside of this because that's where your growth is. You never grow if you stay the same. Now, the thing that's going to cause you to grow is what I was talking to you about earlier. What is your vision for the future? When I asked you what you wanted to do, what your dreams were, your dreams will pull you up out of your comfort zone. Now, there's a word I'm going to give you that causes that. It's called dissonance. See, our minds are set up to make things go back to what's comfortable. Let me rephrase that. Our minds are set up to resolve anything that's unusual. So if we're in comfort zone and we see something that's a different vision, we want the vision. So our mind recalibrates to take us to the vision. How many of you felt better as you described your dream? Did you kind of see that? Did you feel that? Well, I want to tell you something. The reason I ask you that is because I want you to understand what your dream is, because your mind won't go back to where it was. Now you're going to be thinking about what you can have and where you can go and what you can share. Demetrius.
You found out our desires.
I found out your desires. I'm doing exactly with you what I'm asking you to do with clients. Now, if you get one customer, if you get one person that you sell, that means you got 6. Yeah. You want me to explain that to you?
Yes.
Okay. Hold on, Demetrius. Let me give you this. There's a concept I want to tell you about, and it's called the Geary system. And it's from Asian cultures. And it means to return the favor. I want to partner that with something called 6 degrees of separation. Now, you're going to find this out as you start to call on people. When you sell a person, they're connected through 6 degrees of separation to someone else who are just like them. How many of you in this room right now are sitting next to someone you call a friend? Yeah. Okay? So is it possible that a person that you sold to will have a friend who would benefit from your product? Yes. So here's what I want you to do. Stop thinking of selling and starting over every time. I don't want you to do that. Demetrius, if you sell clothes to someone, that person you just sold to knows somebody else who will buy your clothes. So don't go find anybody new. Talk to that person. Here's what I want to share with you. This is you. You are A. Most people spend all their time looking for B. This is another person they can sell to. I don't want you to do that. I want you to find one person that you can sell to. Once you sell to that person, I want you to make sure that you fulfill and give them what you promised them. When you sell them, Ask them a question. Who else do you know that would benefit from my clothes, from my service, from my product? I'm coming to you. Hold on one second. As soon as you find out who that person is, ask them if they would introduce you. When they make that phone call and they come back to you, all of a sudden now you can go to this person, and this person is 80% more likely to buy you. So let me say it again. You can sell one person. You do a good job with that one person. They're going to know 6 other people that you can sell to. And you don't want all 6. You want the first one. You just want one. Okay, Demetrius, do you have a question? And then I'll come to you.
Wouldn't that be like, okay, so let's say what you're saying right now, couldn't it possibly be going to a higher standpoint like celebrities? So if you sell to someone's friend, if you sell to a certain celebrity's friend, and then a friend recommends you, that can bring your business higher, right?
Right. If you sell to Eddie Murphy is going to know Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle's going to know Kevin Hart. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody's connected. So what I'm saying to you, and I want to make sure you get this, stop trying to cold call and get all your business because you will lose. Cold calls only generate 2 to 3%. Remember when I said that the kids standing out in front of the store selling candy?
Yes.
They were only selling 2 to 3% of those people. They may talk to 100 people that day and then 2 of them buy. That's not what I want for you. What I want for you is for you to talk to someone, do a good job with that one person, and they say, you should talk with Bob. You should talk with Mary. And your sales will go faster. Okay, you had a question.
So is that Giri or what is that?
It's Giri, G-I-R-I.
Thank you, Giri.
This is my bad writing, so don't hold it against me. Okay, yes, sir.
So basically, what you're telling us is that you're looking for clients. You're not looking for a bunch of new clients that are unrelated. You're looking for one client. You make clients out of the people that are related to them.
That's right. That when I discover your desires, you're going to know someone else who has the same desires as you. That's the reason you're friends. You see that? We don't hang out with people who are that different from us. When you find people that you like, it's because you have stuff in common. It's rare that you're going to find somebody that you really want to hang out with and they're drastically different than you. So I want to make sure that you get this. Don't spend your time looking for new. If you spend 100% of your time looking for new, you won't be successful. I would rather you talk to 10 people than 100. You know why? Because those 10 people are going to know 6 other people, and you're up to 60 already. But if you talk to 100, you're only going to close 2% of those. It won't work. Yes, sir?
You're spending more time looking for clients than focusing on your business.
That's exactly right. When you can spend that time taking care of a client and making sure that client says, Demetrius is a good guy, try his stuff. The reason I'm standing in front of you right now is because of Ms. Mitchell. That I met her 4 years ago, and we connected, and we worked on a number of projects. So when she says, will you come speak to my kids? I went, absolutely. Now, if I didn't know her, and she came up to me and she says, well, Greg, I understand you speak all over the nation, and you speak to big companies, and I'd like you to come speak to my kids, and I'd like you to do it for free. What do you think would be my response? What are you talking about? You see what I'm saying? Whatever your product is, and whoever you sell it to, make sure you take care of that person. That person knows 6 other people you can do business with. So I want to pause right now, because we're at that part of my presentation where I want to make sure that I'm getting what you need. As you look at your business, tell me what you'd like for me to discuss. Is there something about selling, marketing, that you thought about that you would hope I would address today? I kind of knew Demetrius was going to have one. Where is he, sir?
So I have a question. What do you exactly do again?
I consult companies. I consult them on how to sell and how to market. So if I were talking with you, I would examine your line. I would examine your tactics, and I'd make suggestions to you on how to build your business. That's what I do.
Okay, so now with that being said, if I was to come up to you with a shirt that I made, how would you exactly rate that shirt?
Well, first I'd have to see it. But here's the thing. You're coming up to me as a consultant, or you're coming up to me to sell it?
I'm coming up to you to see what your idea on the shirt is.
Okay. So then I would compare it, yeah, I'll compare it to the rest of the market. I compare it to where you're trying to go, and I compare your price points. So those are the 3 areas I'd probably look at first. You got a shirt here?
No.
Okay, because I'll look at it right now.
Can you say that again?
Yeah, the first thing I'm going to do is compare the quality of your shirt. I'm going to look at your shirt. Then I'm going to take a look at the market you're trying to go to. Then I'm going to say,